So, so Donald Trump has been acquitted. Some people now are asking whether the 14th Amendment can be used to try to make it so that Donald Trump can't run for office again. Now, I believe that I've seen headlines or articles that said that, Chuck Schumer was leaving the door open to consider pursuing something under the 14th Amendment. Now, just to refresh people's memories, those of us who don't have the 14th Amendment memorized, but there's section 3 that disqualifies anyone who's taken an oath and either engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the Constitution. And I think that is the language that they're looking at. And I think they're thinking, okay, we had an insurrection on January 6th. We think Donald Trump was responsible for that. So let's use the 14th Amendment and disqualify him from pursuing office again. So, I mean, the immediate question I have is like, well, the Senate isn't really, I mean, they were supposed to have a trial. It was a political trial-ish. I don't even know how close it was to a trial, but they didn't convict by 2/3 vote. But I would think that a real court would have to decide, you'd have to have a real court decision that said Donald Trump had committed insurrection. I think before you'd be able to use this under the 14th Amendment. I mean, it seems really wrong if Congress could just vote by 51% and say, yep, well, then that would be the article of impeachment. And so it just seems like to activate this part of the 14th Amendment, I would think you'd need some sort of court ruling that said he had engaged in that. And I guess it's just to give some background to everybody, like this 14th Amendment was written back, when
Civil War.
Yeah, after the Civil War, when they were trying to prevent basically Confederates, soldiers, generals, whatever, from holding office to continue to cause problems when they were rebuilding down there. So this is, I mean, not at all, I think, what was intended, but they're thinking, hey, maybe we could use this and try to prevent Donald Trump from holding office again. But my first thought was they'd need some sort of ruling, because I don't think they would have the authority to just decide by themselves that he had engaged in that without something. But and I don't think this has ever been used in this way. So you and I we're probably authorities just as much as anyone else in the universe is, because this is not something that's happened, right? Where they've tried to use it on someone like Donald Trump. So any thoughts on, like, if you were king for a day, what you think that would mean? Like, would you think that you would need some sort of court ruling on that?
Yeah, I mean, this is another one of those situations where I think Chuck Schumer and perhaps some others just need to chill out for a while and let some time distance themselves from what I would see as a purely retributional act. I don't think that the powers included within that 14th Amendment are the right remedy for this type of situation. The Senate and the House had their processes. They went through those processes. I think the proceedings were fair and just, and they were open to the public. So the elements of due process were met. They didn't succeed from the perspective of Chuck Schumer. But I think that, like you mentioned, the historic context of the 14th Amendment, the 13th, 14th, 15th coming in post-Civil War to deal with the particular issues that not only gave rise to the Civil War, but also to the acts of the Southern states during that war and many individuals. So I do think you're correct, Wes, that the 14th Amendment, that section is largely there to prevent Jefferson Davis from ever becoming president of the newly reunified United States, and not to be used against a particular political figure. Again, I think the politics come into this. Chuck Schumer has, as the new Senate Majority Leader, has a very broad constituency to deal with. Let's put it that way. He has a lot of folks on the far left, who really want to scream for the heads, it seems like, of anyone who dares follow any sort of conservative orthodoxy. And he's got some more folks who are much more in the moderate vein. And he's got to satisfy a very big constituency. So I don't take what any politician says on any given moment as gospel truth or as perhaps reflective of their actual thoughts and feelings about it. I think if Chuck Schumer and others were to consider legislation, presumably that where they're going to propose a bill, it would be the Donald Trump ban from future office bill. I mean, what is this going to look like? I think they're going to pass it on purely partisan lines, and they're going to hope to get in the Senate some Democrat votes with a 50-50 split. I don't think it's going to even come close to passing. I don't think that the centrist Democrats would in the Senate would even support something like this. And it would be the biggest gift to the Republican Party that the Democrats could possibly get. I think that it plays right into the hands of this narrative that, quote unquote, they're picking on us. They don't like us. They hate us. They're coming after us. I think the Senate needs to be more thoughtful and deliberative about that. And it's one of those powers that probably has served its purpose in the past. And like many other provisions of the Constitution that you and I could probably find if we had a day and unlimited hours to look through, that we could try to use as a lever and twist into something that could be utilized in today's world. But yeah, I think it's probably a relic that's best left undisturbed.
Yeah, I mean, I would think it would be much more difficult for them to try to use the 14th Amendment than the impeachment trial that we just went through, because I don't know, this just seems like this has only been used back at the time of Reconstruction. This clearly is not supposed to be used this way. We've already argued the crap out of this stuff just barely, and now you're going to do this again. It's going to start to have a stench about it that I would think is going to end up doing the reverse of what they are wanting to do.
Yeah, I think so too. And to answer your previous question, more succinctly, I think yes, that if they were to use that power as a lever, they'd have to have a finding by a judicial proceeding, a conviction for insurrection for Donald Trump, and that's not going to happen. That he is not going to be convicted of insurrection. He's not going to be convicted of treason. He's not going to be convicted of sedition. Those things are just simply not going to happen. In my mind, they really don't have much of a basis in fact. Had Donald Trump followed through on his word to march to the Capitol like he said he was going to do on the 6th, if he had actually joined the throngs and headed up there and breached the Capitol building, okay, I can see that. But he didn't. And that probably would have gotten him impeached as well. Mm-hmm. And convicted. But that didn't happen. So I think you're right. There would have to be a finding. I really suspect that if smarter heads prevail on both the Republican side and the Democrat side in days to come, that this will all be moved behind and we'll be back to arguing about regular policy making issues and the pressing needs of the day.
Well, I will keep my eye on the press, and if we see any more about this 14th Amendment, then maybe you and I can have a follow up and really dig into it if they feel like they're going to do anything. But right now, we will just wait and see.